I'm gonna give it everything I got, and if not, I got an insurance job waiting on me. Where was it? It wasn't in Muncie.
Yeah, Richmond, Indiana.
Richmond, Indiana.
At State Farm.
Dude,
Yeah, that was the only job I got offered coming out of college.
you could
That
be
was a great job, man.
the king of Richmond, Indiana.
Yeah,
I don't even know where that is.
I'd never been there myself. I'd never been there. All I knew, they had a real good, high school basketball team back in the day.
You'd be like their biggest sponsor. Your name would be up in the gym on a banner.
Well, I don't
Blaine
think I
Bishop
would have
and
been there too
Associates.
long. I would have been there probably a year, then I would have found my way at least back to Indianapolis or Chicago
So it
or
was
something.
Richmond, Virginia, or the Houston Oilers were the two offers you were weighing.
Think
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. It's a tough
Well,
decision.
to be honest, the Oiler,
No, Richmond, Indiana, Lucas.
the
Oh, I'm
Oiler
sorry.
offer wasn't, so big. I mean, my signing bonus was only as an 8th round pick like $30,000. So after tax, it was more like 15.
Tell him
So and my base salary was
Yep,
115 and then 125. That's what the practice squad guys are making based off. Actually, more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
I
talking
mean,
about in
rookie minimum is what, 400,000 now?
It's over 400.
for rookie minimum.
Yeah, it's over 400
Yeah,
now.
see?
It's like 450.
Yeah, and I was in the
460.
first year where they got a real good, the new CBA. So it really went into effect the next year, but it didn't help me. I signed a 2-year deal and then restricted. Then that's when I started making some money my 3rd year.
See, there's this
Not
thought
that-
by everybody that,
800.
if you played in the NBA or the NFL, you played 3 years, you
Well, I
made
sure have thought that too. I was
$5
like,
million.
Oh,
No.
yeah, you're making
No.
money.
No.
No, the dudes who was already in the league was making money, but not B Bizzle, not BB. Yeah, so 2 years, 125 was the max. So I was just a nice executive that was risking his life. He was risking his life. It was a nice executive
Hey.
pay, I wasn't complaining, but yeah, that wasn't what I was expecting.
You moved enough product in
Yeah, I was with
in
first
Indy.
rounder freeloading off of B-Hop. He says I wasn't, but I was because I only was paying him like $200, for a room when I was supposed to probably be paying him like
do you
$1,000.
at least have your own bathroom?
I had my own bathroom, my own closet, and everything.
My own closet.
Yeah. So I was cool with that. For trade off, I would also use any vehicle that was available because I didn't have a car all the way rookie year. So it shows you the mindset. And I'd walk his dogs. Meanwhile, he was gone in his 300 ZX, his BMW, Benz, Tonka truck, whatever he had. He had like 6 cars rookie year. And they couldn't fit in the garage truss. So we were all out there. I was like, well, just leave the key in. Whatever one's the easiest to get out is the one I'm driving.
So you're in honor of Oilers Week last week, your Oilers history lesson, 1993, Brad Hopkins was the first-round pick.
Yeah.
Blaine Bishop was the 8th-round pick.
That was the last.
Turned out to be 2 pretty darn good picks, but
It lasted all the way to Tennessee. And he was 13 years, and I was 9. 9 with the organization. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 10 overall. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. It was interesting, we had Michael Barrow was the 2nd round from the U. He was really talented. He was good. Eventually was with the Panthers when they had the expansion, so he got taken that way. So that was it, really, who lasted through. We had Skills Mills, who was a great special team guy from Wake Forest, tight end specialist. And Travis Hanna was a speed demon from USC. He got injured, and then, that's pretty. We had a guy from Kentucky. I think his last name was Bradley, offensive tackle. What did I say? Yeah. He didn't last too long. I don't think he was serious about playing football. I would guess because, they drafted, I think he was like the 5th round pick or something.
some guys,
Then a punt returner, Patrick Robinson, he was pretty good.
Yeah.
He just wasn't a receiver. He was a straight returner. He was pretty good at it.
I think there are some guys who Kevin Dodd always struck me this way. Like he was big and fast and strong, and it's like, he's probably the best guy at his high school, probably played basketball too, was great at everything. It's like
He's
Clemson.
the best team on his team at Clemson.
Yeah, so Clemson calls and they're like, why don't you just come here? We'll pay for everything. He's like, yeah, man. So he gets to Clemson. He's still big. He's still fast. He's still strong. I know his last year was his best year, but then you come here, everybody's big, everybody's fast, everybody's strong. And if you're not doing everything it takes mentally all the time,
Mm-hmm.
that's why it seems like that's why a lot of those. Now I know he got a foot injury, and I get it, foot injury for what his job is. But there's a lot of guys you think, gosh, why didn't that guy make it? Who have been great at big schools,
Yeah.
wouldn't put the work in, didn't learn everything you had to learn, and I tell you all the time, I listen to the stuff that you and Kevin Dyson tell me. One of the things that you always said was, every offseason I worked on everything, but I would find something that I need to get better at, so I'd focus on that. And the next year I'd focus on something else, and the next year I'd focus on something else. You were always trying to take your game to the highest level. And some guys are just like, oh, shoot, I'm not the biggest, fastest guy anymore. I don't know what to do.
Right. That's exactly what happens. Or they're content with where they're at.
Right.
And think they can just continue to do what they've done in the past, and that's going to be good enough. It's never good enough. You better keep evolving as a player, no different than if you're in any other industry in the workforce. So, just like in radio, I mean, who would have thought we'd be streaming, we're live on TV, and everybody gets to see our beautiful faces at this point in time.
Very fortunate.
Yeah, so we now have the face for radio, Mickey. At least that's what we want to believe anyway.
Well, you've done a little TV and me too back in the day, so maybe we're in the right spot right now. Adam Schefter tweeted this, I guess, late yesterday. A.J. Brown strained hamstring expected to be considered week to week. Titans have got the Jets and Jags coming up. I wonder if we even see A.J. Brown for the next couple of weeks. And that got me thinking, well, it's been 3 weeks, so dudes can come off of IR. Well, I think the 3 dudes who started on IR, which is a 3-week clock, so they can come back this week. Darrington Evans, Marcus Johnson, if you need some help at wide receiver, and then Daniel Munyer, who's one of the backup centers, the guy who played a whole lot in the preseason. Those 3 guys could come back. Jim White had posted this earlier. They asked Rob Moore. He spoke to the media today. They asked about Marcus Johnson. This was what he said. He'll be heavily monitored when he is back off of IR to determine how much he can play and help us. I don't know if that comment means he's going to come off this week. Once you come off, it used to be, and COVID has changed so many NFL rules, and maybe, Blaine, even for the better, because it used to be if you went on IR, then you just never could come back.
Yeah, they changed that during the COVID or 2 years ago.
Then it was 2 guys could come back, be designated to return, and now it's anybody could come off IR, but you got to be on 3 weeks. And then once you come off, they've got 3 weeks to either go, okay, we're going to play him, or you have to go on the shelf all year.
Oh yeah, right. So you get some 3-week leeway. I really like this rule.
Oh my gosh, me too. Bigger practice squad. I like all the rules.
Do we even know what area Marcus Johnson was injured? It was kind of mystery because remember he was stopped practicing, then he didn't played in the last game, and then all of a sudden he was injured again. And I have no idea what was it, a lower body? I'm talking in hockey terms. I don't know. Was it? I have no idea. Like, was it a hamstring or was it a knee, an ankle? I never understood what his injury was.
Here's the story from now, and I'm same way. And I was thinking about this morning, and I thought I'm going to pull this up. CBS Sports, Marcus Johnson, wide receiver, undisclosed, was placed on injured reserve. Never disclosed. Undisclosed. And it's the NFL. Usually whatever's wrong, they at least say elbow, shoulder, foot, ankle, undisclosed.
Okay. You know all the rules that I don't know. How can they report that he's undisclosed? So they could actually be like, oh, he's not really injured. We just wanted to put you over to the side here. Not to say that happened, but I'm just like, don't they have to disclose some form of an injury? I didn't think you could do that anymore.
Okay.
I know they're so tight-lipped over there, Vrabel on injuries, and I get it, but you have to list somewhere area, knee, ankle, calf. I mean, they got to say something, shoulder. They got to say something.
I think, and somebody will immediately tweet at me and say, you big dummy, if this is wrong.
Tweet them.
You big dummy. Mickey Ryan 1045. You can tag
tweet
Blaine.
it to Blaine and Mickey because
Bishop 23.
The 2 dummies.
2 dummies. Hey, you 2 dummies. Somebody's going to tell me if this is wrong. I think you can go on IR with whatever. Once you start to play, if you don't play, then they have to say what it is.
Yes, I got you.
So this week, let's say because they always release.
He could have had COVID. I don't even know.
It could be.
Right.
It could be anything.
No idea.
We really don't know. Maybe you could tweet us that too. You dummies. Here's why.
Well, we need to go find Red. I bet he knows.
So you and me are walking out of the studio. By the time I get to my car every day, they've released whatever their transactions are for the day. They do it every day, but we can't stay on that long because it's time for 3HL. So they tell you.
We'll sit in here with 3HL.
We should just sit in here, tell and say, okay, here's the injury report. We're going to read it.
That would be fun.
Okay, bye.
The Blaine and Mickey 3HL show.
Well, we used to be on that show. We could rejoin for a minute. we were on there once upon a time. But here's the thing. If they make him active today at 2:56, whatever he does tomorrow or doesn't do at practice, then it has to say like limited
What area?
hamstring, did not practice shoulder, whatever. At that point,
What if he just say his whole body got tight?
tightness.
Tightness. That was Julio Jones. Tightness.
It's tight.
It was tight. Or what was tight?
I,
His back,
I
his neck,
I don't want
his shoulder, his elbow,
I don't.
his pinky finger.
Well, you need that to catch the ball.
Yeah, you do. You do. I don't know. Was he deep? Not hydrated.
To somebody from Atlanta who's not a big believer in the tightness, or he's not a. I talked to somebody and he's not a big believer that load management and tightness and
You don't believe any of that?
no.
He's not with it, huh?
No.
So you saying now that somebody was fibbing?
I'm not saying.
Oh, so you're not in the accusation game?
I'm not. No. I'm not making any accusations or acquisitions or any kind of acquisitions at all. I'm just saying. I got a call yesterday and somebody's like, "Hey, man, this is trending poorly up here for this former Falcons wide receiver. It is trending poorly for him, and boat need maybe to get turned into a different direction for this to go well."
Yeah.
And I don't want to say too much, but
Yeah, he was tight, but only because the coach said he was tight. That is how we'll go to break there, Mickey.
Blaine and Mickey, we got Eric Eager. Maybe Pro Football Focus has a tightness scale. We'll ask Eric Eager next. It's Blaine and Mickey.
The Titans play 4 quarters this weekend against the Jets. Jets.
Mike, that's as low as you can get without being on the ground.
The Titans and Jets. Coverage starts Sunday morning at 9. Then the kickoff at noon on your home for Titans football. 104.5 The Zone.
This is for the men who never settle, the ones who miss the fairway all day and still pull out the big stick, the type of guys who will always prefer to be behind the grill than in front of the camera, and the men who never let their friends forget about a high school nickname. This is the Lodge mentality. This is Twin Peaks.
Who wants to settle for a single TV? With more TVs, bigger screens, plus our fabulous scenic views, there's more to watch at Twin Peaks.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
WinBet Sportsbook again?
Yeah, man. Want to get in on these bets with me?
Okay, fine. Just signed up. Yes.
See?
I was like, oh, that's what I thought they were.
Eric Eager, Pro Football Focus. They got all the words to describe all your favorite and non-favorite players. Hey, Eric, does PFF have a tightness scale? We want to know how tight Julio was in the fourth quarter of the game on Sunday. He had tightness. I was wondering how PFF had rated his tightness.
Or did you see anything where he could have got like tight?
Yeah.
Or missed a block or something.
You guys are getting the full Julio Jones experience where, we have a statistic called yards per route run, and Julio almost always leads the league in that. But you're finding out that one of the reasons why he does that is that he limps off the field for play a number of plays at a time, and that denominator isn't all that big because he doesn't play nearly as much as a lot of other starting receivers.
Should Carson Wentz have limped off the field and maybe not finished the game on Sunday? Because, hey, man, that dude was playing on two bad wheels. It was hard to watch at times.
Yeah, I mean, the hard part with Wentz is, when you have that sort of injury-prone label, you sort of want to prove to the rest of your team, right? And then you also have the label last season where, you got your spot taken away by Jalen Hurts, and there was, a rumor that said that he sort of kind of folded like a lawn chair when they brought in competition for him. And so, he's fighting an uphill battle against a lot of narratives, and I think one of them is the injury-prone one. And so if it was kind of an injury where, he was being more hurt than he was injured, I think he was probably getting advice that you have to go gut it out. Now, he's been painful to watch the first three games of the season, I'll just say. And I'm not saying he's necessarily bad. It's just like that offense could be decent in Indianapolis, but there's always sort of something in their way. And on Sunday, it was the Titans' defense.
At some point, do people start to take the golden boy label off of Ballard? Because, I mean, he was the greatest thing since sliced bread with peanut butter on it, but they just keep having problems with stuff.
Well, the problem with the Colts is I think that they do a really good job at drafting players. They do a pretty good job. The trade that they have with the Jets is really a smart one, but they don't really understand the value of positions. So, look at where they've hit in the draft on positions. They hit at linebacker, which is, not necessarily the most valuable position in the world. They hit on guard, which is not necessarily the most valuable position in the world. They hit on running back, which, unless you're Derrick Henry, is not the most valuable position in the world. And they traded a first-round pick and gave a lot of money to DeForest Buckner. And so when you do that and those guys end up playing well, you have to dole out a significant amount of your money to the Darius Leonards and the Quentin Nelsons and the Jonathan Taylor eventually of the world. And the problem with that is then you don't have the resources to buy players at valuable positions like defensive back or edge or wide receiver or quarterback. And, then you have to sort of take these long shots on players like Carson Wentz, which are never great. Or you have to not overpay, but you have to pay a significant amount of money for a guy like Phillip Rivers last year. So I don't think Ballard stinks or anything. I do think he's gotten unlucky because, Andrew Luck was playing really well when he decided to retire, and that's not really his fault. But at the same time, a lot of the moves that they've made, I think he's a great talent evaluator. He just maybe isn't necessarily as good at valuing players the way that you're supposed to at the NFL level.
Talking with Eric Eager, Pro Football Focus at PFF_Eric. He's the VP of R&D for PFF on the B&M show.
Maybe you're on a roll there. Eric, since you're talking about Wentz, let's talk about this. I know his play was erratic at best, but, man, what was it? What was his offensive line grades? Because, I felt like he was getting harassed by the Titans front four pretty much all day. So what did you grade? How did they grade out?
The Titans graded pretty well up front defensively on Sunday. You saw there was a tweet that we had that they had 16 total pressures, I believe, the first two games. And then against Wentz on Sunday, they were able to get 24, I believe. And now you're looking at Harold Landry leading the team with 20, then Denico Autry with 14, and then Jeffrey Simmons with 7, and not so many from Bud Dupree so far, only 3. But they're getting good production now, from that front, and hopefully that continues for them now that they have sort of a commanding lead in the AFC South.
I didn't hear you, but did you have Olawale? I guess his numbers as well.
Yeah, he has 5 pressures, but he's turned 5 of those pressures into 3 sacks. So that of course, from my perspective as a data person, I look at the pressures because those turn into sacks. But yeah, he's been productive from a sack perspective, and he's also has 3 stops in the run game. So yeah, that's a fairly good start to the season for him.
What was his production, or did you even know he existed before he came to the Titans, man? This is kind of fun because he's already in the NFL now. Is already trying to do a drug test on him now.
Oh, really?
I
mean, he's I believe he was undrafted. His first team was Pittsburgh. He's 24 years old. I mean, I guess he had 155 snaps with Pittsburgh last year. But just to give you sort of a sense of scale, going into the season, he had played just over 200 snaps in his career, had 6 total pressures in his career, no sacks. And then, of course, the other day he had 3 pressures and 2 sacks just in that game itself. So and that's a find. And if you're Tennessee, look, the offseason, we've talked about this a number of times in the show, the offseason wasn't kind to them in a lot of ways, except for the Julio trade. And when that happens, you need guys like that to step up.
No doubt about it. We went with Eric Eager with PFF. I guess give us who's trending up and who's trending down. I guess your top 3 candidates of both on offense or defense, or at least one candidate of those.
Well, I think what trending up is certainly the quarterback. Ryan Tannehill did not look good in the first week. Question marks about whether Todd Downing could really run an effective offense. Those are questions I still have. There are some bad markers in their data. So, for example, Tennessee's receivers in general, when they're targeted, are contested by opposing defenders at a rate that's only surpassed by the Chicago Bears offense. The Chicago Bears. I think Matt Nagy is the reason Todd Downing sleeps well at night, because he's getting all the attention, where Downing got all the attention after week 1. They also run the fewest number of what are called run pass options, which is sort of the new craze in the NFL this year. They only run them about 1.1% of time. So there's a few things where he's not giving for example, they run the ball on early downs the 4th most in the NFL. So there are a number of things where they're not giving Tannehill as easy of a job as he normally had with Arthur Smith. And yet Tannehill has emerged the last 2 games and played, I think, fantastic football. So he's one, of course. I think trending down is obviously, unfortunately probably due more to an injury than anything. But A.J. Brown, a guy who, I've drafted in a lot of fantasy leagues, I'm a very big fan of. Right now, 18 targets leads the team, along with Julio Jones, but he's only converted on 7 of those. Averaging a little bit, roughly about 5 yards a target, which is not anywhere close to a guy who got 1,000 yards as a rookie and under 100 targets. So he's trending down for me a little bit. Once he comes back and is healthy, I assume that he'll add a spark to the Titans offense. But right now, he's been a little bit less than expected.
Kind of with Eric Eager, PFF. Kind of go through the starting offensive linemen and kind of take us through your grades. I thought Quisenberry played solid. What was Lawan's grades, and kind of go through each and individual one of those guys, Ben Jones, Saffold, and what they graded out as run pass.
Yeah, Quisenberry has our highest grade among offensive linemen. 79 pass block grade, a 66 run block grade. The run block grade isn't as high as like the Ben Joneses of the world and so forth, but the pass blocking grade is the best one there. So you look at that, Ben Jones has a decent grade. Roger Saffold, like a little bit right below him. Ty Sambrello is very clearly, sort of the weak link there, but he's not playing all the time, which is a good thing, for the Titans. And then, the hard part is with Taylor Lewan week 1, when you play Chandler Jones, and to his words, you get exposed a little bit. That's always going to be tough. He did come back and have a better game, especially in pass blocking, in week 3 against Indianapolis with a 75 grade. He's still been a little weaker in the run game, but it's probably going to take a little bit of a season for his grade to rebound from that first one where he was kind of manhandled by a very good, edge player in Chandler Jones.
Well, with Eric Eager with PFF.
Eric, Derrick Henry, there used to be this meme of an alligator, and he was like opening a fence with his claw, and it said they're evolving. Now Derrick Henry is catching passes. He's like this alligator that's now evolving to find other ways to kill defenses. This dude is just in a class by himself, it seems like, and throw in his durability factor, and that seems to amp things up even more for him.
Yeah, he has a 4.4 yards per carry, which isn't as high as he's used to, but 3.6 of it is after contact, right? So that offensive line we're talking about, not great in the run game, not giving him a full yard before contact, but he's still emerging, to be a fantastic player there. So he's again not as productive in the run game from a yards per carry perspective, but still carrying that team on his back, and they've gotten 2 leads. One lead specifically last week that they never relented because of how good he is when you're ahead, and he actually ran them back into the game against Seattle, which is really impressive. But yeah, the passing game, I mean, you're looking at he's not only been targeted 12 times. I talk about yards per target with A.J. Brown, being in that 5 range. I mean, Henry's been targeted 12 times. He's caught all 12 of them. 8.8 yards a target, right? So that's a very impressive number for running back. And it can help add, part of the issue with running back contracts is like oftentimes the guy will get hurt, and oftentimes the guy will, not be as efficient after the contract, because usually early career runners are more efficient than late career runners. But if you can add to the guy's repertoire 12 touches where he gets 9 yards a touch on those plays, then you're getting value out of that contract. And I think the Titans are doing that. And that's, Todd Downing, I gave him a lot of flack the last time. But kudos to him for sort of working that wrinkle into the passing game, because they kind of need it, right? The tight end position, is not as productive, and the wide receivers so far have neither guy is on pace really for a big season so far. So Henry adding something in the passing game is a big deal for them.
I want to switch to the defensive side. Harold Landry this was a really talented guy in a really big league in college. We really didn't get to see much of him last year. We felt like the tools were there. Now, you tell me this. Other than the one coverage bust, which everyone has attributed to him yardage-wise, has that dude really given up anything?
No, not really. I mean, that's a really good, feather in his cap. Really, I mean, on the entire team, there isn't a player on the Titans other than Jack Rabbit Jenkins and Elijah Molden, who have given up over 100 yards into their coverage. So, Fulton, I mean, you're talking about 18 targets into his coverage, 5 receptions, 3 pass breakups. That's a pretty impressive start to the season.
It's Blaine Bishop type numbers right there. Eric Eager joining us from Pro Football Focus here on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, we've talked about all the studs, but how has Julio Jones, graded out over the first 3 weeks in totality, in your opinion?
Well, the hard part is he's being asked to do more, I think, than we all anticipated because of A.J. Brown's ineffectiveness and then the week 3 injury status. He's averaging 17 yards a catch. He's still being explosive. But only 12 catches in 3 games, only 204 yards, and he hasn't gotten in the end zone yet. In fact, there was, of course, that one catch that he had against the Seattle Seahawks that was a touchdown, I think, in almost everybody's mind, the same way that Dak's sneak last night was a touchdown in everybody's mind, but it didn't get through. So, I mean, I think it'll come. He certainly hasn't played great yet, and if you're the Titans and you're taking on that salary and you're trading a second-round pick for him, you'd probably expect more.
Yes, we're on with Eric Eager with PFF. Naturally, being the former safety that I am, how are Kevin Byard and his new mate out there, Crookshank, do?
Yeah, Crookshank has only given up 4 catches into his coverage, 79 yards. It's a little high, but he's 3 stops in the run game. He's even gotten a pressure rushing the passer. So, there's not much there. We can complain about he's graded okay for us. Byard's a player who has always graded well for us. Looking sort of at him right now, he's given up a couple touchdowns in his coverage, but he has an interception and a pass breakup. He's only missed 1 tackle, which is a decent rate. when you're a safety in 3 games, that'll happen to you. So I think they're both solid. And interestingly, like I talk about you guys as favorites in that division. Like I think for the Titans to sort of make the playoffs and for them to win the division, those safeties I kind of have to be just solid. And with the young quarterbacks and sort of like the struggling, they'll get their opportunity to make interceptions against Trevor Lawrence and against Davis Mills and even Carson Wentz later on in the season. So, but if they're solid and they're not making mistakes and not letting the ball get over their head, I think that they'll be plenty good enough for this defense to, be a division champion defense.
We're on with Eric Eager of PFF. I guess one more for me, and I'm always like skittish on like what happens when Tannehill throws the ball to Chester Rogers. It bounces off his shoulder pad. Take me through the process of how you guys are grading that out as well as it was intercepted. So kind of take us through, how you grade guys on that play, the quarterback, and then how you grade Rodgers too as well.
Well, exactly. That's the whole thing. So like right now, Tannehill has 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I think the better way to look at it is to look at it from the 2 perspectives we have them called big time throws and turnover-worthy plays. Because that's really like a big-time throw is going to be like a 20-yard post, which right on the guy's shoulder, and whether or not it's caught or not is independent of the grade he gets. Like that's kind of how we grade quarterbacks. If a ball is thrown perfectly to Chester Rogers and he drops it and it gets intercepted, obviously that counts as an interception in his stats, but that's not a turnover-worthy play for us. And so right now Tannehill's just got 1 turnover-worthy play all season, meaning the 2 of his 3 interceptions, most of them aren't his fault. And that's kind of how you can have like a 90 passing grade in our system, or sorry, an 84 passing grade in our system, but not necessarily have the greatest statistics. By the NFL standards, it's because we grade the process and not necessarily the result. So Rodgers will get the blame for that play, and he'll get a negative on his score sheet in our system.
All right. And one more to that point, though, it just reminded me because last week this happened, I guess, a couple times or so, a handful of times is, how are you grading wide receivers on drops? Because people kept saying they had drops when they were actually, being a former DB, PBUs, the guy knocked it out of his hand. So are you saying that's a drop and a PBU? How are you guys grading that?
Yeah, it depends. Like, we're pretty liberal we're pretty conservative on what we'll say a drop is. So, I mean, it's got to be pretty bad for us for us to call it a drop, let's say. So there haven't been as many drops as probably people believe, and we do give, we call it. So we have pass breakups. We also have what's called forced incompletions. So let's say that you're covering a receiver near the sideline, and the quarterback has to throw it out of bounds to avoid you. That's a forced incompletion, even though you don't knock the ball, you don't get your hands on the ball. You force an incompletion. So we do a couple things like that on the defensive side, and we do count drops, but we are, we are cognizant of how difficult it is to make a contested play, and that's kind of part of that statistic I talked about where, the Titans are not necessarily getting the best separation in the world. That to me is more troublesome than drops. Drops are mostly like noise. Guys, over time their drop rate will sort of stabilize. They have good streaks and bad streaks, but your ability to get open or in coverage, your ability to stop players from getting open is a pretty stable trait.
Eric, great stuff, man. We always love catching up with you. Always love reading the grades and all the stuff that you guys do, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Take care.
Yes, sir. Eric Eager at PFF_Eric, Vice President of Research and Development for Pro Football Focus. Great Twitter account, too. Great follow for all you football fans out there. We know that you are a bunch of them. All right, if you're a Belmont fan or a basketball fan, Belmont had a huge announcement today. The Director of Athletics, actually, he's the Vice Chancellor for Athletics. Now, he's a Vice Chancellor. Scott Corley said to give us all the details next on Blaine and Mickey.
Every Titans game is on 104.5 The Zone.
You know what? I just love that.
Your flagship for Titans radio is 104.5 The Zone.
This was definitely one of those great days that you love as an athletic administrator.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you actually overstated. I'm just a vice president. I'm not a vice chancellor. But,
I got you, man.
just kidding. But no, today was a great day for sure, Mickey. I mean, historic in so many levels, and just the excitement of joining a conference like the Missouri Valley. These are certainly fun days, and a lot of hard work's gone to get to this point by a lot of people over the years, and I'm just the beneficiary in a lot of ways to be the one on stage participating in the announcement. But it's very exciting. Everyone here at Belmont is ecstatic.
Well, you brought this up during your portion of the program, just all the administrators and Coach Bird and everybody who came before you or has been part of this journey with you, because where Belmont started as far as what conference and what classification you were in NCAA-wise, where you've come in 25 years is really pretty amazing, and this is just the next big leap in that progression.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty phenomenal. First off, most schools don't make the move from NAIA straight to Division I, and we were able to do that back in 1996 with the vision of Dr. Bill Trout, the president at the time. And so that took some courage in and of itself, because that was not a usual move. And then, the success that we've had, starting out, those 4 years kind of figuring out what conference we're going to be in, those are tough times. And, Mike Strickland, the athletic director during that time, did an amazing job figuring things out, where we're going to play our games. We didn't even have the Curb Event Center. I mean, so many things went into that I don't even fully appreciate. But then just the methodical growth going into the Atlantic Sun, having the success we had in the Atlantic Sun, making the move to the Ohio Valley 9 years ago. People were questioning, boy, that's a move up. Is Belmont ready for that? Can they compete? I think we've proven we did that. And you're right. In a lot of ways, as this opportunity presented itself, it just seemed like the next logical step for a school like Belmont that's got so much momentum going on right now, whether it's at the university level, within athletics, and just being part of a Nashville community that has so much positivity going on with it. It just feels like it's the right time and the right move.
If I didn't say this off the top, Scott Corley joins us, Vice President of Athletics, Belmont today, making the announcement they were leaving the OVC for the Missouri Valley Conference. That's what we're talking about today, and Scott is on with us now talking about that move on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, Scott, I guess, I know a lot of things happen behind the scenes, but kind of take us through the maturation process of how long this has taken and the kind of negotiations, and were there other opportunities, other places, and this was the best landing spot for you guys?
Yeah, this thing actually moved pretty quick, Blaine. In a lot of ways, it started with the new president of Belmont, Greg Jones, starting on June 1st. I think any conference commissioner that had an interest in a school like Belmont reached out to him. And one of those was the new commissioner of the Missouri Valley, Jeff Jackson, and the president of Missouri State, Cliff Smart, reached out to Greg early in his tenure. And Greg and I kind of huddled up, and, he asked, is that something we ought to think, at least talk about? And certainly given all the, uncertainty with conference affiliation, I think we wouldn't have been doing our due diligence if we didn't at least listen to them. And so that literally started only 2 months ago. And, I think why we were able to move so quickly, Blaine, is because the Missouri Valley, was really aligned that they wanted Belmont. They made that clear to us, which was obviously a very, very good feeling. And then when we sat down with our chairman of the board of trust and the executive committee and just the various people, within Belmont leadership, it was pretty unanimous that this was the right decision. And so I think when you have all those things line up, you have a conference like the Missouri Valley that stated a strong desire to have us be part of it. And on our side, all our leadership and decision makers were pretty aligned. That's why we were able to move so quickly. And, part of our other rationale on moving quickly is I think it's fair to both conferences. If the decision's been made, that you might as well come out and make it public. Then both conferences can figure out their next steps, whether, from scheduling, from membership, things like that. So in a matter of a little over 2 months, we went from an initial discussion to today's announcement.
Man, how exciting. We're with Scott Corley, Vice President of Athletics at Belmont. I guess I'm assuming all sports are moving over to the Missouri Valley. If not, correct me. And then if you do have sports that will not compete or they don't offer, what will you guys do with that sport in men's and women?
Yeah, good question. Every sport aligns with the Missouri Valley except for men's tennis. And just to be clear, this is effective July 1st, 2022. So it does give me some time to figure out what we're going to do about men's tennis. Right now, the Missouri Valley only has 2 schools that sponsor men's tennis. They play as an affiliate member in the Summit Conference. But there's some other conferences that are, low on men's tennis teams that I'll reach out to. Obviously didn't want to reach out until this announcement today, but, the OVC was going to be in a similar situation even if we stayed in the Ohio Valley. With Austin Peay's departure, there are only going to be 4 men's tennis teams, and you need to have 6 to get the automatic qualifier. So there's some work to do on that end, but every other sport, including men's soccer, right now men's soccer, we're an affiliate member in the SoCon because the OVC doesn't sponsor that. So we gain one and we lose one in a way.
Along with Scott Corley, Vice President of Athletics at Belmont.
On the way out, Scott, I was able to talk to Casey Alexander a little bit and you while I was over there at the announcement this morning. This is an interesting thing, especially for, let's say, Belmont basketball fans because of the strength of schedule. This is a multi-bid league. Often it's going to be a tough schedule to play, but there are some opportunities to get higher seeds in the tournament and more bids to the tournament now.
Yeah, you're right, Mickey. I mean, that's what was attractive to this move. As our basketball program under Casey's leadership continues to compete at a high level with the addition of the Crockett Center, our new practice facility, I think everything was lining up where we're in a position to go against better competition. And I think statistically there's no doubt the Missouri Valley has some really, really strong basketball programs. And so the challenge is, we want to continue to be competitive in a really tough league. And, there's going to be times where, we may not be at the top every year. But to your point, I think with the strength of schedule, with the quality of the teams, with our ability in the non-conference to continue to schedule correctly, I think we've got a good chance not only on the men's side, but also on the women's basketball side and other programs where they've been multi-bid leagues in volleyball and men's soccer. I think it gives us a greater opportunity for our student athletes and coaches to get into the NCAA tournaments, which is, everyone's goal.
Well, it was an exciting day. A lot of people excited about the future. And again, as you said, this starts July 1st of 2022. Won't be that long down the road. Scott, thanks for taking some time to talk with us on such a busy day.
Glad to do it, and thanks for being there, Mickey. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Scott Corley, he's the Vice President of Athletics at new Missouri Valley Conference member Belmont. Big day over there on Belmont Boulevard. We'll come back. Hour number 2 coming up next. More Titans talk, including Coach Mack. Oh, yeah, the Mack attack on Blaine and Mickey.
Coming up today on the 3HL.
We've got tons of football to talk about, and we're going to do it on a 2 for Tuesday.
Yes, Titans.com. Jim Wyatt answers all our questions. Slay doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, we got Allenville. I'm sorry. We got Allenville. Allenville will be on.
What does 2 for Tuesday even mean in sports talk radio?
The main thing is you get to have the wash away toast, Miller Lite.
Buffalo Wild Wings in Gallatin. We'll be there. You need to be there, too. Who's going to be there from the Titans?
Oh, Caleb Farley, original Boom Boom Room member. Come on, Caleb.
Today, starting at 3 p.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
considered week to week. This comes on top of Julio Jones being tight or being load managed or whatever was going on. So
not doing his job. We got to add that to the list, and we should put that out as a question. I know we had a poll question today, but that was not it. That whole situation is just kind of interesting because Vrabel actually had to have a press conference to say he was not sitting because of his performance. Is more so because he got tight. When situations like this happen, I would love to hear from Julio. Yeah. And ask him, was he tight? That's how you decide on what was really going on. Julio, were you tight? Did you ask him? Because Julio had his helmet sitting on top of the bench where they keep your helmets. Like, he knew he wasn't going in where, for whatever reason it was. So that tells me he was injured or he was told he's not going back in because he would have had his helmet in his hand. I'm just reading about what I'm seeing. I could be told off base, but it's one of the two. That's it. There's no in between on this. So I'd love to hear Julio say, yeah, I was tight. Tight where? My whole body was tight. My back, my neck. Did you see me run down that interception guy? Metcalf ain't got nothing on me. That's when I got tight. So I wanted to see him say that. Guess what? All talk ends. Bing.
Yeah.
Done. Because the coach can tell us whatever he wants to tell us.
Right.
And, we just got to take it with a grain of salt and believe that he's telling the truth. But we all know coaches don't always tell the outright truth to whether it's an injury or his decision. He may have made a decision that he just didn't want him out there. He thought, he needs some rest. We can go with the guys we got. And guess what? Those guys, they performed. And that's why they're on the roster.
If you remember Sunday, I read that this was the quote from Mike Vrabel on Sunday. Lucas, I think you still have the audio from yesterday. Lucas is answering a couple of phone calls here. Mike Vrabel got asked on Sunday what happened with Julio Jones not playing down the stretch, and this was what Vrabel said. I think as this thing played out, we tried to manage where he's at and understand what type of game that we thought the end of the game was going to be, and those guys are going in there trying to dig safeties out. We'll keep looking at those guys, and there's a lot of guys that are going to need some rest this week. A lot of guys, they played a hard physical game, and hopefully we can be ready when we head up to New York. So John Glennon, who was on with us yesterday, had tweeted at the time, Mike Vrabel is talking about Julio Jones and maybe not playing because he would have been required to block a lot. Or essentially, and John, if you're listening, I'm trying to paraphrase your tweet, but when you hear that, talking about digging out safeties, that's receivers blocking down the field.
Yeah, that's all it is. And maybe he just didn't feel like, okay, Julio's a good blocker, but this is a good time for us to get him some rest.
Right.
And we'll put some of the younger guys out there who are going to do everything they can to block the guy because
Cam
they're not
Bass
getting
and Westbrook, Akina, Racy, McMath. Yeah.
But if that was the case, why couldn't he just say that? Or did he say that? He just said it differently. He said, hey, we felt like we're going to run the football and we put some young guys out there to block.
Yeah.
And it was a good opportunity to get Julio some rest. That's all he had to say.
It's a long season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he had a lot, we gave him some rest. And I lost grasp of where we're at because we were still running the football.
Yeah. This is what Mike Vrabel said yesterday. You got to ask about it 2 or 3 times. This was him yesterday. The Julio Jones topic came up again, as you expect.
And then, as it relates to your question, about Julio, guys go through games, guys get tight. And, I felt like it was in the best interest of our football team and everybody involved that he be available in an emergency situation at that point in time. There hasn't been, other than one admitted, I would say, lapse in judgment in the first game, which everybody would agree on, myself, the team, Julio. There hasn't been one situation where I was disappointed. He's played physical. He came back, played great last week, played physical yesterday, and that's where we were.
You say tight, Mike.
Again, guys get tight throughout the game. So we're not physically tight. Yeah. So, listen, guys, this is going to be the least I talk about injuries. So that's what we do. This is not an issue with his performance. This isn't an issue with anything other than me making a decision and saying, hey man, let's see if we can get through this and survive and win this football game and see if it's a long season.
It's a long season, Blaine.
Yeah, man. When I hear
games,
I hear that now, it's not believable. When I hear that, I feel like he just made a decision to take him out for whatever reason. I don't know if he was tight or not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? Hey, man, you go over there and get some Gatorade and with all the other stuff that they put in the Gatorade to make sure you're hydrated. Hey, man, till you get some of that down, then you get back out there. That would have been my mindset if I'm the head coach. Just me, though. I don't know about that one. Because in there he kept saying, I made a decision, what was best for the team. And in his mind, he thought the best thing was for you to go stand. Whether you was tight, injured, not injured, nothing wrong with you at all. I think he was going to make that decision regardless. He felt like that was the best thing going. Now, here's what I love about Julio, though. He didn't complain. You could see it on the TV copy. He's just standing there and wondering, like, wonder why I'm not out there. That's how he looked. Now, I can be totally off, but he put his helmet on top, like, I'm not going back in. Yeah. And then they show him. We have to realize now we have a superstar on our team, regardless of the numbers. Everybody's watching. Mm-hmm. You, Coach Vrabel, and Julio. He's a national big figure guy. And then they show him going over there to get his helmet off the bench, on the top of the bench where they keep their helmets. So obviously then he was told that he could go back in because then he goes and gets his helmet. So this was kind of interesting. Everybody, Vrabel's a disciple of Belichick and everything else, but that was more Belichickian to me than anything he's done so far. Except he's not Belichick. Yeah. He's not that guy because he doesn't have any championship rings. So nobody's gonna question a coach who has those rings in their hands full of Super Bowl rings. So, coaches don't like to be questioned. He said, I made a decision that was best for the team. Guess when they say that, coaches, that means end of discussion. Yeah. I've said in front of a lot of them, and I don't want this ain't the end of the discussion, coach. No. I want to be out there. I want to help my team. I want to help my brothers. So this was kind of interesting.
Yeah, this is a long week. It's only Tuesday. Obviously, the Titans' day off. But Rob Moore had spoke earlier and said, I probably played Julio and A.J. Brown too much in game one. He said he wanted to dial it back a little bit since he said Julio has been a consummate professional since he's been here. That was from his wide receiver coach earlier today, Rob Moore.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, you expect nothing less. Yeah, that's all the quotes out there on Twitter, what Coach Moore has said. And, yeah, he did. But guess what? Remember they said that about Landry? Mm-hmm. Oh, we got to get him more rest the next season. Well, that was last season. He played more snaps.
He played all of them on Sunday.
They don't give a rat you-know-what about no snaps. Stop that, Coach Moore. I know you want to make sure you stay in line, but that we all know it doesn't even matter. We about winning. And if you can't help us win, then go stand on the side. Then you don't need to be dressing.
Let's take it.
You do all the you too much. I want to see more reps. Myself personally.
Let's take. We got phone calls. Let's try to take one or two right quick because I know we got to get to Coach Mack. Mark Spade Real Estate Hotline. Michael in Gallatin wants to talk Julio. Hey, Michael.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. I was watching the game, and I don't know, not many of y'all are talking about this, but I think it was in the third quarter, they were punting the ball to us, giving us the ball back. They showed Julio on the sidelines going to grab his helmet behind the bench. He was standing next to AJ, and he gave him a really smug, very, I don't know what he said to him, but he had that face like, dude, come on, man. And I think what happened, throughout that game was that I guess when Julio was out there by himself, there was just no openings for him at all. He was probably getting frustrated because I'm pretty sure after the half he didn't even get targeted once, or maybe he did. I mean, I just didn't even notice it, but I think it was. I mean, I think something was said to AJ, by Julio, because it was on the telecast, and then they cut the scene pretty quickly after they said he was questionable to return. But I just want to see what did y'all even see that? I'd like to hear about it, and thanks for taking my call.
Michael, thank you. I need to go back and watch the second half again. I've watched it. I've watched the TV.
Well, they
copy.
showed him standing there next to
each.
talking to each other is what he's talking about,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
But I don't know what happened. But then after that, that's when Julio kind of, I think maybe a little while later, I don't know how far of a gap it was after they kind of conversation, but I was just assuming he's asking him, hey, man, how you doing? You know, how serious is it? And, guys are going to give you the customary answer. I don't know what's going on with it. It just, man, it's tightened up on me. It's not loosening up. Every time I start trying to, burst, it tightens up.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make it worse. I'm assuming that was the conversation. I have no idea.
Yeah, and it's not being lip readers. I mean, it's just hard to read something into something like that.
Yeah.
Let's get Rob
No
real
idea.
quick. Rob in Nashville. Rob, thank you for calling.
Thank you for having me on. Now, I was wondering the same thing to myself, but could it be that Rabel might have took him out because he was afraid maybe he would get hurt? Because if he down two receivers, then Titans really in trouble. And then Julio, let's face it, I like Julio. I think he's dynamic, but as time goes on, we get a little bit older. So, they kind of invested a whole lot into him considerably with the age that he is. He's still dynamic, but I don't know if he could have been thinking like that. But
hey, Rob, hey,
anyhow,
man, we're up against the break, buddy. I do appreciate the phone call. We're just really late for a commercial break. Just of his phone call, though, well, maybe he was afraid he would get hurt. I'm sure you would have some thoughts on that you would like to share before we go to this commercial break.
Nope. That is. And by the way, remember I said this conversation before the season started. History tells you whenever you trade for wide receiver, they really don't make that big of an impact in wins and losses until maybe playoffs.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe they should be doing a better job, or Julio, put the onus on him, maybe backing down practice a little bit. I want you on game day. I know what you can do. So, but, he wants to get in rhythm with the offense and the quarterback and things like that. So, got to practice. That was the knock. Nobody could say anything bad about Julio Jones in Atlanta besides sometimes he don't practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he needs to rest. That way you have fresh legs. Well, when you utilizing a guy like that and he's a special talent, you give him those kudos. So maybe they should do that instead of in an actual game. Because if I'm a head coach, actual game, I give a rat's butt about caring about it. Oh, I got to protect you to get hurt. What do you think Henry's saying? What do you think Tannehill's saying? What do you think Ben Jones is saying? I mean, go down to everybody. That's the risk reward, man. We're giving you $15, $16, $18 million, whatever it is. Hey, man, get out there.
Right.
Remember I said that about Marcus.
Get out there.
Yeah, put him out there in some form or fashion. You're paying him $15 million. They put him out there, start doing some read options and all kind of stuff. Do something. If you don't be standing on the sideline, you lost your job. Okay, cool, but we're going to utilize you in some form. You're fast. Let's use them.
We got to get to Coach Mack fast and use him. Coach Mack coming up next to talk Titans, Blaine and Mickey.
Yeah.
Your Titans are at MetLife Stadium this weekend against the Jets. Coverage starts Sunday morning at 9. Then the kickoff at noon on your home for Titans football. 104.5 The Zone.
became a must-win because of what did not happen in Week 1. And this game, transferred into the AFC and transferred into the division. And so you find a way to win it, you win it, you put it on the stack, and then you go to the next one because we've got a stack of AFC games coming up. So here we go.
It's interesting hearing Mike Vrabel kind of saying what a lot of us were thinking after the game. The Titans always put out his post-game speech, and he said there were a bunch of guys in this room who woke up this morning having no idea the role they were going to play in this game, but when they all got put in, they all played well. He talked about Breon Borders and some of those other guys who really they got contributions all up and down the roster on Sunday.
Well, I mean, everybody needs to expect to play. If you're on an active roster, you got to expect to play. And I'm at practice every day. They practice everybody, in a role. They coach everybody pretty hard all during the week, and regardless, they coach guys on the practice squad pretty hard because you can always call two of those guys up. And so, if you're on an NFL roster, whether you're on a practice squad nowadays because of the lenient rules where you can bring them up and put them back down, and you can bring them up 24 hours ahead. All of those things there's nobody that's not essential that's on a team. And so everybody has to be ready to play because that's why you are on a team, is to play when you're called on to play.
Yeah, 46 people active on game day, Coach. That's a numbers crunch right there. You got to make some decisions, and everybody who suits up has got to step up. That's for sure. Coach Dave McGinnis, our guest, same time, same day, every week, brought to you by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Need great health care coverage and affordable price? Let Farm Bureau Health Plans coach you through it. They got you covered. Coach Mack on with Blaine and Mickey.
Well, Coach, you've been a head coach in this league, and, man, I'm just interested in this day and age. I know when I played and when you were coaching, I don't know if you had to manage players, playing time based off of their health, but how difficult is that to manage even throughout the practice week leading up to game, just managing players and making sure that they're peaking on Sunday and not actually on Friday, and make sure they get the proper rest and everything else, but yet let alone getting the reps that they need to make sure they're on the right course for the game plan?
Yeah, Blaine, it's essential. I mean, you have to be able to do it. Absolutely, I did it when I was a head coach. I mean, I had guys that I had to, depending on where they were physically to start the season and where they were as each game progresses, because as you well know, look, you did it for a lot of years. I mean, it's a car wreck out there, for however many snaps you're out there for 3 hours. I mean, it is. And so it takes a while to regroup, and you have to be very in tune. You got to be in tune with your medical people, but more importantly, you got to be in tune with each player, and it's each player individually. And I've had players that I've had to manage like that, and some of them liked it, and some of them didn't. I mean, I've told the story before about Kyle Vanden Bosch about to come across my desk, choke me out, for not playing him. I mean, I had Emmitt Smith at the end of his career. I had to manage him and say, look, E, you need to stand here for a while. You don't need to be so those types of things, and you have to do, in conjunction with the player, because here's what head coaches. I've been on that sideline. I've been a head coach, in this league. And here's the one thing that's at the forefront of your mind, no matter what goes on all through the week and then all during that game. How am I going to win this game? How am I going to win this game? Not only how am I going to win this game, how am I going to win this game and still be able to utilize the people that I have up? And also, how am I going to be able to get these people to the next game? That's constantly what's on your mind. And so, every decision look, Frank Reich, how about Frank Reich coming in here? He's got two completely healthy quarterbacks and chooses to play a guy that's got both angles completely taped up. Well, he's probably getting crushed for that up there at Indy, but I promise you, Frank Reich didn't make the decision saying, you know what, this will probably get us beat, but it doesn't matter. That doesn't happen in this league. Doesn't happen.
Well, I thought some guys really stepped up, some great role players, but, even guys who started, Quisenberry, what were your thoughts on how he's played up to this point?
I kind of like him, Mickey. I mean, Blaine, I don't know if you've watched him very close. I know that you break the film down, Blaine, pretty. I like what he's done. And here's what's happened, with those, those Sambraio and Quiz. They've been asked to do that, for a couple of seasons. And every time they've been asked to do it, they stepped up and done a really, really good job. And so that's how you get confidence in those guys. And so when you get that chance, if you're a quote a backup player, and again with the rosters the way they are, and with the rosters being turned over about 33% every year, everybody has got to be ready and able to play. And if you're in that kind of position, Blaine, and you step up to play like that, then all you have done is solidified your chance to stay on that roster and be a contributor even more. Because to me, see, the days of having one guy start and just play the whole thing. Now, sometimes if you're low at a position, some guy may have to take an extraordinary amount of snaps. But I thought Quiz has done a really, really good job. That offensive line has impressed me because it's been a little bit patchwork just because of the people coming back from off-season surgery and then starting the season. Not a lot of time to work together. But these last couple of weeks, I mean, they've done a really nice job, and they need to continue to do that.
Yeah, definitely stepped up. I guess I was talking about the role players. Let's talk about how them stepping up pays dividends along the season later down the road.
Well, that's huge, Blaine. And look, you've been a leader in a locker room before. How much more confidence do you get? I mean, you watch guys when you were a player, and I know this is true. You practiced hard, but you also watched how those other guys behind you practiced too. You watched them, and if this guy comes in, can I count on him? If it's on my side of the ball or even on the other side of the ball, because everybody is interconnected, as you well know. And so when they step into a role like that on game day where it counts, and they're able to produce, well, then that gives you even more confidence. And you know as well as I do, the way you gain respect in an NFL locker room is, are you mentally prepared? And are you and do you practice during the week with the plan in mind? And then are you physically not only able to do it, but are you physically, tough enough when you've got that kind of mindset to play and produce in a real game? And that makes a big difference, especially to the veterans in the locker room. It's really important.
Yeah, no doubt. We're on with Coach Mack giving us the Mack attack.
Coach, I was, as always, listening to Titans radio on Sunday. That's the only way to do this. You turn the sound down on the TV. You listen to you and Mike Keith. It's the best experience you can possibly get. That's the way you do it. You were talking about how Eberflus and the Colts came out early like everybody does, tries to stop Derrick Henry. He eventually, though, and the offensive line wore him down. He gets his 100 yards again. And, Coach, we were talking to Pro Football Focus earlier. They've thrown him the ball 12 times this year, and he's caught all of them. Derrick Henry's 12 for 12 on targets. He is evolving as a player. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, he's never not been able to not catch. I mean, I've watched the guy practice ever since he's been here and I've been here. I mean, the guy can catch. And now what they're starting to be able to do is you saw Todd Downing empty the formation once, threw him. He was the number 3 guy on a 3-2 split, clear out on the outside guy on the wide guy, and threw to him. And look, when he catches it out there, if that corner or the backer that walked out on him then is not pressed up on him, he's going to have a run and start at you, and that's not a fun proposition either. And so, they're using him very, very well. But to your point, Mickey, about the offensive line, that's the only way you can run the ball. Hey, Blaine, you watch their safety. You watch the safety for Indy, and you saw him when they had those 8-man fronts. He was 21 yards deep. I mean, he was. Wasn't he? I mean, you saw it. Yeah. I mean, I kept mentioning it on. I said, this dude is deep. And so what that tells me is they know when they're lining up and they've got those solid fronts across and they've got their corners up, that the quarterback's going to take some shots. So basically they put that safety back there right in the middle, that deep, so that he can lap to either side if a takeoff route is thrown. And so that's how people are going to play this football team, because Derrick Henry, again, even if he doesn't break the long run, he's still going to batter and bruise you in the third and fourth quarters, which is what's important.
Coach Mack, you and Mike were having this exchange. Titans scored the touchdown. It looked like they were going to go for 2, and Mike essentially asked you, what do you run here? And you said, well, if they're out there, that means Mike Vrabel has something he really likes, and they had a run play that was blocked and executed perfectly. He obviously had seen something, and they nailed that call.
Well, absolutely. I've done this too long as a coach, and whenever you immediately make that decision, there because, I mean, you could have gone up by 8, which would have been okay too. But he knew he had something in his pocket. And as I say, I watch him practice, and that's all I'll say about that. But he knew, and especially, and you saw where they ran to the right side of the offensive line.
Yes, sir.
And so, and you go back and watch it, go back and look at it and see they're a little bit tilted over there on that other side. So absolutely, but that comes from film study and that comes from preparation. And you always prepare for those unusuals. You call them unusuals, so that if they come up, this is what we're going to do. And when you prepare and then you do it and it's successful, that even gives your squad more confidence in the next time something comes up or you work on something during the week.
Got Coach Mack on for our weekly visit, giving you the Mack Attack, courtesy of our friends at Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Well, Coach, I wanted to get your thoughts. Being a defensive-minded coach, I'm interested in hearing about the holding, the pass interference. I don't
Blaine.
even – both sides. I mean, but it was all over the league. I mean, just kind of take us through that process of what you see and what they're calling now.
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And you know why? You know where I hate it? I hate it when it's away from the play. I mean, I hate it when it's away from the play. You played in the secondary in the National Football League.
I was holding all over the place, Coach.
Yes,
you'd be mad at me right now.
And guess what else happens? Receivers push off all the time too, right? And so, to me, if it's away from the play, our first podcast, Titans Amy and I had, we had Mike Pereira on, and he was the best. When he was in charge of this, it was the best. I mean, that bothers me a lot. It really does. I mean, it because that call, we had 2 critical calls like that. They did too. That call and the pass interference calls are the most damaging calls in the National Football League because they give you a new set of downs. And you guys know, and our listeners are sophisticated enough, and I know our people that listen to Mike and I on the radio on Sundays are sophisticated enough to know you start giving people in this day and age more shots at you on offense, you're just asking for trouble. Yeah, I hate that, and I'm glad you brought it up, Blaine, because you guys know I'll say what I'm feeling up there, and sometimes I can't because what I say might get me in a lot of trouble.
I know. Well, with Coach Mack, give it a Mack Attack. I guess one more question really in the line of this is how I felt, and maybe not every time that we watched film, but after a win, I'd walk out of the meeting room after the film room not feeling so good. But after a loss, I always felt like I walked out of there, I'm going in there sad and pissed and mad that I didn't do what I needed to do if it was just one play or 5 plays. And I usually walked out of those meetings feeling a lot better. Kind of take us through as a coach what your plan is when you go into meetings after games to talk to the players at position groups. What's your plan of attack and approach about a win or a loss, or does that even have anything to do with how you?
No, it absolutely does. You played long enough. I coached. I'm telling you, it has everything to do with it. Because here's the thing: when you get beat, everybody feels awful.
Mm-hmm.
Awful. You lose a game in the National Football League, it's awful. It's like you can't even breathe. And you know that, and I know that.
Yes.
Now, so bring your team back in on Monday and when everybody's feeling awful, their families are feeling awful, you've got people in for the game, you didn't even want to go out to eat with them, everybody leave me alone, let me go in my room, turn out the lights, okay? So you bring your team in, and then you're going to start hammering them again to make them feel worse, and you've got a game you got to get ready for. No. Correct it and then move on. Now, when you win, I mean, just the polar opposite, everybody's feeling great. And so what you need to do is bring it back to reality and say, hey, we won, but look at this. See, they had a great opportunity. I mean, those film sessions this week, I know I would have loved to have been in on them because, hey, we won, but we're not going to win many games when we're -3, turnover ratio. We're just not going to do it. We can't do it. We can't drop balls inside. We can't drop balls inside the 5. We can't turn it over to them. Great job defense of playing sudden change there and making them kick at field goals. And this is what we always say, no matter how far they move it down the field, make them kick at a field goal. And we always have a chance. All of those teachable moments you can use, but everybody is receptive to it because you still got that great feeling of accomplishment of winning the game. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters in the National Football League. That and health is what matters in the National Football League. So you're spot on, Blaine, and it's because it has to be like that. Because if you don't really have a feel as a coach and think, I'm just going to hammer these guys every time on everything, doesn't work. And you know it, and I know it.
Well, lastly, naturally it was Oilers weekend, and Billy White Shoes Johnson did his, Westbrook Akina did the
Best.
dance, which was really Mickey's highlight of the weekend. Which was fantabulous.
Coach.
So what did you think about all of that, man? That was pretty cool.
Mike Keith and I both looked at each other when he did it. We went, Mickey Ryan's loving this, because and Mickey has professed his love for Billy White Shoes. Mickey said he wore number 84 when he was playing his youth football. I thought it was absolutely fabulous. I thought that let's bring that back just a minute. I thought Amy Adams Strunk and what the organization did, bringing back all those Oilers and putting Bum Phillips and having Wade and the family here to all of that into the Ring of Honor. I thought it was absolutely fabulous. But first of all, Billy White Shoes Johnson is still a character. All right, number one. You saw when he took the sword as a 12th man and jabbed it in. He did that. To me, and really, guys, if our listeners are old enough to remember, when he first started doing that, that was a big deal. That was a big deal when he did that, and you had kids all across the country trying to do that. You know what I'm saying? And so when Westbrook Akina did that, I went, yes, that's a perfect exclamation point. I loved it, and I know Mickey Ryan was beside himself. He probably started crying.
Coach, I was absolutely beside myself. You know me, I'm a historian, so I go back to all those Oiler teams. This whole week was just unbelievable to me, and I remember Love You Blue and Bum Phillips, and I know you're a Texan, so obviously those were things that you knew as well. Amy Adams Strunk just keeps doing all the right things. That was another whole week of Amy Adams Strunk doing the exact right thing.
Oh, absolutely. I was at practice, when they brought those guys in on Friday. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. She is the absolute best. And look, everything that happens in a National Football League organization starts from the top and works its way down. And right now, our ownership group, headed by Amy Adams Strunk and Kenneth and Barkley Adams, and to me, they're doing all the right things. And again, what that does, though, it gives you a feeling throughout the building. I'm talking about throughout the entire building, that we're doing everything we can to help this football team win. Now, you still got to go out there and play. Does it guarantee you win every game? That doesn't happen in the National Football League. But what she has done since she has taken over, and she and Kenneth and Barkley as the controlling owners, it's been outstanding.
Coach, this segment is always outstanding. Thank you for jumping on with us. Love hearing you and Mike call the games this Sunday. It was just another great one, and can't wait to hear what you got up your sleeve for the New York Jets on Sunday.
Yeah, where you going out to? I know you got a spot in New York.
Oh, of course.
Blaine, I got a spot everywhere. I've been in this league a long time. Believe me, I know people and spots everywhere in this league. You're right about that.
Well, Coach, one day we'll get your travel guide published, and you can tell everybody where they need to hit in all the NFL cities. Thank you. We'll talk to you next week.
Always love being on with you guys. Thanks.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Coach Mack, the very best. Every hour two of every Tuesday show here on Blaine and Mickey. When we come back, got to give out our game balls. If you want to give out your game ball to a player or players, you can hit us on Zone TV. You can hit us on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. You can tweet us at Blaine and Mickey. This is Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone.
Coming up tomorrow with Buck Rising.
Wednesdays mean the dumbest thing in sports, and we have a lot of dumb things to talk about. Belmont head basketball coach Casey Alexander will join us at 10:45. And, of course, our weekly segment with Will Compton of Bussin' with the Boys, who was last seen in a hype video hitting me in the face with a keyboard. I'm sure that won't come up.
The Buck Rising Show. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
Give your game ball to an offensive player, a defensive player, a special teams player. Our director of content, Blaine Bishop, said, this is something we ought to be doing. And I said, that's right. And he said, Tuesdays would be a good day. And I said, that's right, too. Director of content, Blaine Bishop, always coming up with something funky.
And you're the mastermind behind the content.
The show. No. That's a lie.
Yeah,
you just try to make me look good. You are the director of content for this program, have been since its inception. When a man gets up every day at like 4 o'clock, he's got a lot of time to come up with content. Although I have lost the ability to sleep. I can't sleep at all.
So you're right there with me. I'm gonna start texting you then. Instead of 5, I'll text you at 4.
Yeah, well, you could. I'd already done a lot of show prep by then. Walked the dog. I'd done it all. Titans game ball of the week. Lucas Panzica, would you like to award your Titans game balls?
Yeah, or just one.
However, just one ball.
Balls.
To build off the conversation with Coach Mack, Nick Westbrook-Akina strictly for the Billy White Shoes celebration.
Yes, that was pretty awesome, especially knowing his age and Billy White Shoes. He had to actually meet him and then talk to him and then Google him, YouTube and all of that. And to do that in the game, man, a young guy, you're right.
But how many Titans players do you think were thinking that day, if I score, I'm doing the Billy White
Right.
Shoes?
Yeah, I don't think they were. But Westbrook again, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, a tip of the cap to that rascal. And here's the thing. To do it in front of Billy White Shoes is I have fantasies about things that I could make Billy White Shoes smile, and Nick did it. So good job. Not Mick, but Nick. Good job, Nick.
All right. Well, you're gonna give what are you gonna give, a special teamer, and I'll do defense, or how you want to do it?
I'll do a special teamer. I will give the game ball of the season, though, the emeritus game ball to our man Nick Westbrook-Akina. That was just fantastic. The fact that he's playing so well. Now I know he fumbled, but everybody fumbles sometimes. Hold on to the ball, Nick. But he was playing big minutes down the stretch. They were counting on that dude because your $1 million guys were both. Yeah. One with hamstrings and one with undisclosed tightness. They were over there watching Nick Westbrook-Akina out there doing the Billy White Shoes.
Yeah, that was awesome. You know, they used to give out game balls when I was playing, but then after they give it to you after the game, though, they also, during the week, they'll give you a painted one with the score and that you were the player of the week.
Ooh.
So it was painted like a white background, had the score, the teams, helmets on there. So that's kind of how I came up, we came up with the idea. Yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Director of content, game ball winner, Blaine.
And then it was so bad. Once you become a really good player or a great player, those game balls get less and less. I mean, you're just like, this expected of you now.
Right. I don't have a shelf to put this next
like
one.
Derrick Henry didn't get the game ball from this last game. He was like, I ran for 35 times, man. I carried the whole team. Yeah, 135. Did you see my pass reception? Did you see my gloves, my claws?
He had 31 touches again. 28 runs, I think, and three receptions.
So, but that's expected. Yeah, but the offensive player is going to go to, Westbrook-Akina. He stepped up. See, I just did it. I mean, we just did it. That's exactly what happens.
All right, which one am I doing?
You can do special teams.
Special teams. Mayor of Jolton tweeted Blaine and Mickey, says, give Ola a game ball.
Definitely, he's the defense guy. That's who you have no choice but to go there. 4
tackles, 1.5 sacks. I think he could have had 2. Yeah. He had a TFL, and he still.
Oluwadeni. I got to give him just the O. It's the O.
Big O.
Yeah, big O. Big O. That's Big Oscar.
Big O still had tied for the most special teams reps. He played 4 people, had 20 special teams reps.
He wins in a landslide now.
He also tied for the lead in special team snaps, Oluwadeni.
That's pretty special.
Hey, man, that's a guy who is earning – they all earn their money. But that's a guy who's like, yep, I'll play special teams. Yep, I'll play defense. I'll do it all.
Seizing the opportunity that exists right in front of him.
My special teams guy, Chester Rogers, averaged just about 15 yards per punt return, and that's huge to get a first down every time you catch a punt. Chester Rogers.
Yeah, I agree. I concur, man.
Game balls, you can continue to tweet us at Blaine and Mickey. Also got a poll out there that we want you to check out. Are the Titans a top 10 team? We will get into that tomorrow on Blaine and Mickey. But right now, it's time for 3HL on 104.5 The Zone.
Yep, and happy Tuesday. It's a beautiful day, so everyone stay fresh and comfortable. And as always, be safe out there, and peace.